Woo! Well, hello, hello, hello. It's a new one for us, virtual conference for higher education. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And hopefully you've all settled in. Technology is working really well. And we're ready for the next few hours. Eileen is joining me in terms of being the lead kind of presenter facilitators. Eileen, do you want to say hello, quick introduction from yourself?
Morning, everybody. My first virtual conference, even I've not done one as an attendee, so this is going to be an experiment for us today. But we've practiced and hopefully we've polished. So hopefully we'll have. We know we've got some brilliant presentations through the day. So hopefully we'll have a great time.
Yeah, so you're joining us from it's the House of PMO that's brought the event together with the help of University of Nottingham. You'll find out a little bit more about that in a second. And the House of PMO is obviously a professional membership organisation for people that are working in PMO today across all sectors. But today we're obviously focusing on you and your sector, which is obviously higher education. So great to see everybody here today. You might have heard in some of the preamble that we were doing before we got going at 9 o'clock. But they should have been meeting together in person. But, unfortunately, and economic reasons and lots of things conspiring against us, we wanted to make sure that this went ahead and in a way that a lot more people could join us. And here we are trying out a virtual conference, and it's the first one for House of PMO. We're normally used to doing conferences with people in person. Which, to be fair, is I think what most people love. But let's see how we get on today, and hopefully it's the experience is just as useful for us. So over the next 3 hours, the whole point of the higher education organisation is to bring people together that are working in the same kind of organisation as you, in the same kind of role, in order to be able to learn, to share, and to network. Now, we really want you to be able to stay for the full 3 hours. We know that there are probably constraints on your time and people wanting things and easy to check your emails and all that kind of stuff. There will be regular breaks on each of the hours for 15 minutes. So hopefully you'll be able to just do quick things then, maybe grab a cup of tea, but hopefully you'll stay with us right until 12:30 when we finish today. If there's any technical issues, please do try coming out, signing back in again and picking. You should be able to pick up from where you've left off. If you're really struggling, you'll see this in the chat. You can get in touch with housekeeper at houseofpmo.com or give us a phone call if you're really struggling. But hopefully you'll be okay. But please do do let us know if you're really struggling. And before we kick off, if you're not a member of the House of PMO, you really should be. There's a wide access to not only what we're doing today in terms of things that are around the challenges and opportunities around higher education and PMO, but a lot of other things that we're doing that really are applicable to you and your role right now. So please do check it out. Okay. So, Eileen, over to you.
I am. So I might need to get somebody else to launch the poll. So the first thing what we want to do is just be clear about what we're hoping to get out of today. So although we are looking to we've got the agenda set for today. Really, it is kind of just to validate that what we're covering is what you expect. And so hopefully, there we go now. That poll should be open for people. Can people see the poll? So you should be able to type in there anything at all. So whether that be, do you know, I'm also very grateful that people have learned the thumbs up. So what you should be able to see on your screen is a word cloud now of the things that people are putting in for what they want to get out. So great, we're going to be looking at some problems and opportunities, definitely looking at that, and we will be able to give the opportunity to get some insights, not just from the speakers but also from the other colleagues who are working in higher education PMOs across different organisations as well. I always think that it's nice when you kind of come into a session like this and you actually kind of recognise that the problems that you have in your part of the world are actually shared by other people, and hopefully you'll meet some people who have dealt with some of those issues and can provide you with some kind of helpful responses and tactics to deal with them in your organisation. So there we go, we've got kind of quite a few coming up. Interesting best practice, the kind of the bigger the letters, the more people have put that in. So interesting in terms of best practice. And we will be touching on best practice. And I know Zoe and I are going to be doing one of the early sessions talking about best practice, but also how you make best practice work in practice. So we're going to talk about some of the common challenges. Do use chat to kind of share experiences as we go through. We are going to encourage you to kind of take a note of people who you like, who kind of has had some kind of conversations that have or contributed as we've gone through the day. Join them on LinkedIn. Make yourself available to that, but do kind of feel free to kind of say that in the chat if you're open to be kind of connected to, or you're looking for some kind of particular support, or would like to connect with people in a particular area. Do put that in chat as well. So best practice continues to be the kind of the biggest one, but networking is in there, learning some challenges, all of the things we've got covered in today's agenda, Lindsay.
Okay, well that's good to know, isn't it? So just to let you know, before we kick off into the sessions, but you will notice that this has been recorded. And because we're using MS Teams, you will be able to access the recording for a limited time after the event. You'll also see within MS Teams that because you're in this session today, it also opens and keeps the chat in your MS Teams program. So you can also see that. You will also see within your chat part that there'll be files and things that will be, there's some files already there that have been uploaded in terms of, etiquette of using some of the whiteboard stuff and conference bingo and things like that. What we'll be doing there is adding in some more files and things that again will be available afterwards. And everything that we're doing today in terms of whiteboarding stuff is also will be available to you after the event as well. So we always get questions about, will this stuff be available afterwards? Yes, it will. That's it. Okay, so let's move on to the next part and get this day really going. So how do we get here? It's simple. We got asked. We got approached by Andy and Sharon. Hi, Andy and Sharon from University of Nottingham last June. We came to the PMO conference and said, is there any way that we will be able to have a community event that's purely for people around higher education that are working in PMO? We've got to have all got the same challenges, and it would be really crazy if we can't get together in some way to have a chat about that and to see what those kind of challenges are, and are we right in actual fact that yes, we've all got a similar kind of thing going on. But of course it wouldn't be great that then if you got all those people in the room, how we could actually start to tackle some of these things, so in the interest of the competition, there's no real competition between people. We all want to do a good job around the kind of PMO's change space and helping our organizations move on. And the really great thing about coming along to something like the PMO conference, you can see just how open people are to networking, to sharing, and just talking through some of the challenges that they have. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. Nottingham put their hand up and said, is it possible? And here we are. Let's find out. Yeah, that's what we're all about here at the House of PMO, helping PMO and PMO profession, and these are some of the ways that we can do that. So how are we doing that? These are the three aspects. Eileen, over to you.
Okay, so we're really we recognise that in certain industry sectors that there are some kind of specific problems that kind of we have similar shared pressures and challenges, and so we're on about kind of looking at a development of the community of practice, particularly around MHE. So that's why this was here. So hopefully this is the start of building that community. And if you kind of stick around till the end, we'll talk about kind of what the next steps are in developing that community and some kind of further events and opportunities going forward. And although we've got best practice, and we've already kind of touched on this, is that kind of best practice is great if you live in textbook land. A hands up anybody who lives in textbook land. Nobody I know. Yes, it's this kind of mythical place where everybody knows their role, fulfills it. There's no politics involved. Everybody's kind of doing what's best for the organisation, not what's best for their kind of career in the next kind of 6 months. And so what we want to do is kind of make sure that actually some of the things we talk about actually is what reality feels like. So you'll be able to say, actually, I've read the textbook, I've done the course, and that's great. However, what I'm really struggling with is kind of what does that mean in kind of reality on a day-to-day basis. So we're going to start looking at kind of some guidance about how we can focus that best practice out there to deal with some of the kind of the real life issues. And of course, being in the community of HE PMO professionals allows us to kind of just have a shared understanding of what those real life issues are, but also start thinking about what's starting to emerge. One of the really fascinating things about being in the project management and PMO is that it continues to move and develop. I was to chat with somebody the other day about another book that we're doing, and they said, kind of, has all the best practice not been written? I said, it's not the fact that it hasn't been written, but things continue to evolve, and there's kind of new things, new challenges we have to approach. So hopefully what we'll be able to do is kind of as those kind of develop, we'll be kind of sitting alongside you and those challenges and helping to develop best practice guidance for you to use in a real life situation in your PMO. So hopefully we're going to have a great day today. I'll give you an opportunity to kind of get your 2 pennies worth in terms of what you think your particular challenges are. As I said, it's always a nice relief to see that actually there's other people who are coping with the same things, but also to provide your input and thinking about potential ways to address those and ask some more specific problems of your colleagues. And again, we would encourage you to kind of just take a note of those people who you really kind of resonate with, who perhaps have something a little bit more kind of full to say, and make sure you join up with those with LinkedIn. So we're ready to start, I think, with the kind of starting off with our first speaker, Lindsay.
Yes. So I'd like to introduce Nalini Fambao, who's the Director of Planning, Performance and Strategic Change at the University of Nottingham. Nalini is the first in a number of people you're going to hear from today who are very passionate about the higher education sector, a sector which has recognised the imperative for substantial transformation and change across both academic and professional services departments for several years. Strategic change is indeed necessary, and today we are all focusing on how the PMO will contribute to that change and help make some of those transformations successful. So I'd like you to please welcome Nalini, and now it's time to find those emojicons. Is that what they're called? Put your hands together. We've not talked about those yet, but hello, hi, how are you? Are you ready to...
I am very good, and I am used to speaking at virtual conferences, and the single most frightening bit is the point where you share your screen. So I'm going to do that now and hope to goodness that it works, and then we know that we're winning. So this is looking very promising. Hopefully you can see this. Is something appearing on the screen?
Yay!
Nearly.
It's there.
Nearly. I think this is now a bit of a test of broadbands, isn't it, as to whether people can see. So yeah,
you're all good.
So you have something in front of you, hopefully, yeah. So thank you very much for inviting me to speak, and second shout out to Andy and Sharon for suggesting that we at the University of Nottingham partner with House of PMO for this event, which I think is really, really important for our sector, particularly in the times that we're in. And I had an introductory chat with Lindsay about this when we were talking about what I was going to say. And I think it's fair to say it was an absolute meeting of minds on a number of matters. I am very, very interested in professional identity. That's my research area, and particularly professional identity of colleagues in universities who are not academics. And so to know that there is potentially a professional body here for people working in this space, given this world that we're in, I think was really warming for me to hear. And so I'm delighted to be able to welcome you. Obviously, I would love it even more if we will welcome you to our actual physical campus, but I applaud the pragmatism of this approach and very much hope that you're going to have a great day. So just a little bit of unpacking of my delightfully long job title. This is what PPSC covers: planning, performance and strategic change. So a responsibility for strategy and planning across the organisation, a responsibility for projects and change. And I think you're hearing from Moira Petrie, who is the Director of Projects and Change for the university later on this morning, and also insight and analytics with a particular focus on data, student data and HESA returns and all the joy that comes with those. So that is the world of PPSC. But if I'm honest, that's not the thing that I think about when I think about the University of Nottingham and my role and the higher education sector. So yes, this is indeed a map of a Disneyland. It's Disneyland Shanghai, because we have a China campus, University of Nottingham. But to me, higher education is a really magical place. And I apologise to my Nottingham colleagues who I'm sure have heard me say this before, but one of the strap lines that Disney have used over the years is "this is where the magic happens." And I genuinely believe, in terms of our communities and our society and our world, there are magical things that happen as a result of our HE sector and the things that they do, which is really precious. And it's a real privilege to be a part of. I'm going to show you the Nottingham origin story. You will all have one, which I'm sure is equally bold, equally important and equally visionary. We were born of a philanthropic spirit and a spirit of entrepreneurship. We describe ourselves as a university without borders. And as I say, we have our UK campuses, we have a China campus and we have a Malaysia campus. And we're not small, but we are not the largest either. I'm sure there are people on this call with larger student numbers than we have. Of course, student education is critical. That's typically how the public see universities in terms of students and the student experience. And we focus a lot of time and energy and intent and spirit and hope in preparing our students for success once they have been with us in our institutions. But of course, we also have outstanding research, which is there to transform the world. And you too will have outstanding research, which is going on in your institutions, which is designed and is intended to make the world a better place. And that does sound rather grand, but there are grand ambitions running through the creation and the operation of our institution. And I've just named, in our case, some of our stars. You too will have research stars, you too will have Nobel Prizes, but one of the people that we talk about quite a lot at Nottingham is Sir Peter Mansfield, who was the originator of MRI scanners, which of course has revolutionised the way in which we approach medical care. We're really proud to be taking a stand and doing a lot of work in the era of modern slavery, to try and counter that and to balance that. We created ibuprofen. Personally, I'm very grateful for that because I have regular back problems and it's quite nice to be working at the place that helps me get through them. But as you can see here, we have a number of areas where our star researchers have made a difference, and this is only a tiny handful of them, and you will have them all too in your institutions. As a sector, we do amazing things to make the world a better place. But of course, behind that, there is, as Lindsay said, a lot of strategic change that needs to go on, because our institutions are not new And as has already been said, our environment evolves, and so we need to respond so that we can continue to be as relevant and continue to be as transformational. So sitting behind the University of Nottingham, and again, I just use this as a model, is our strategic change portfolio. I'm sure that you have one too, which is there to enhance and evolve education and student experience, there to enhance and involve our research and knowledge exchange activity, sometimes, often to do both. We will have infrastructures which are complex and need to be revived and regenerated, and they need to be preserved and they need to be nurtured. And of course, people. What are our institutions without people? So making sure that we have the right people in the right places doing the right thing in the right way means that we are on a constant journey somewhere of strategic change. And that's not because as an HE sector we don't know who we are. It's because we need to be relevant, we need to be current, we need to be future facing. So that looks delightfully clear. And I hope that there are some thumbs up of recognition when I say that behind all this amazing wonderfulness and transformation is typically an organisational structure that, if we were being perfectly honest, probably looks something like this. Because universities typically have been a product of evolution and not design. And brilliant people in brilliant places have done brilliant things in the brilliant way that they are best placed to determine. And as a result, we can go out and we can present a few nice tidy slides, but many of us know that behind the scenes we are typically wrangling something like this. And so then, as a PMO professional, trying to navigate this, I think, is a very interesting space. You're using the word interesting to cover for a number of things. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. So having talked about the magic of HE, which I firmly believe in, I want to talk a bit about the magical mystery of the PMO in HE. I moved into PPSC at Nottingham about 18 months ago. Before that, I was working as the Director of Careers and Employability, and I also am responsible for Getting in Shape, which is our continuous improvement programme. So I am relatively new to sitting firmly in this space, although I always worked with PPSC in my other roles. And it has been quite interesting to cross over to the divide and absolutely stand in the shoes of my brilliant colleagues across Nottingham who are working in this space, because there is something very special, I think, about how higher education understands and works with its PMO functions as they evolve. So you may feel that you have experienced involvement in a project and a programme where the leadership was decided in this highly technical, objective and data informed way. Because typically our institutions are academically led. That's not the wrong thing to do. They are academic institutions. But what that can mean, as it isn't always the people that have the obvious skills and experience that end up leading some of the activities that then a PMO, individual project managers and portfolio managers have to enable and make happen. And in my experience, there is definitely a range of understandings about what a PMO can be or should be. So typically, and this is good, people go, yeah, we need project management support, we need a PMO approach, we need to make sure that we do these things so that when we're making these big changes that we have a plan, that we manage the risk, that we keep things on track and we realise outcomes and benefits. And I think typically at this stage in any sort of discussion there is violent agreement, because of course that's what we're here for and these are the things that can make a difference. But as those conversations go on, and not all conversations start in this space, here are a few things that I have experienced directly and indirectly. I'm sure Moira will say more about this, Andy, Sharon, colleagues who are from other parts of the university likewise, is that these things kind of slip into people's wish lists, whether they realise it or not. So they say they want PMO involvement and project management, but when you actually drill, what they're asking for is admin support, which is not the same thing as the professional input that this space can give. I don't think I'm going to be making too outlandish a confession to say that at Nottingham, on occasion, we have a little bit of silo working. We may be the only university that has that. I'm going to guess not. But I think sometimes people go, oh, we have all these silos. If we put in PMO activity, the silos will magically vanish. And so people see it as a solution to something that is actually far more structural and cultural. Sometimes people think, oh, it's good that we get the PMO involved because that way they're responsible and accountable. And so that is quite a comfortable space to be in because it feels some of that has been offshored. I think sometimes they think that people can actually tamper with the space-time continuum and make things happen far more quickly than they actually can, particularly when we are working to an academic calendar, which is pretty established. Sometimes people think, oh, it's a project or a programme, so it's over there. So I'll just carry on doing my job and I'll do my bit for the university because the university will carry on and something over there will be happening and that's fine and I don't need to worry about it. And then at the end, somebody will wave a wand and suddenly this will all become business as usual, even if it's been off to the right or the left for the previous 1, 2, 3 years, months, whatever. So I do think that in higher education, people are on a journey, if I can use a very overused phrase, in terms of fully understanding and appreciating the contribution and the importance of a PMO approach as we navigate all these strategic changes. And then I think there can be some very natural and understandable responses because it can feel quite wild trying to land the thing that you believe you are there to land. And so you can get a focus on process, which is necessary to a point, but maybe sometimes that process comes to the fore in a less helpful way. We've already had references to a textbook approach, and I can see why. It's like, oh, for heaven's sake, look, I went on a course, I can see how it can work. We just need to do these things in this order with these templates, and then it will all be fine. Sometimes that can be so culturally at odds with the space that you're trying to enable. And so then that can be quite demoralizing. So you just think, oh, do you know what? Let's just be realistic about what I can actually do. Let's just scale back. I started off really ambitious and exciting, but bluntly, in this place, these are the limits to what I'm ever going to be able to achieve. And so you take out some of the excitement, some of the ambition, some of the entrepreneurship, which we're trying to infuse in everything that we do. And that can be personally quite limiting, which I think where then for professional identity, that can be quite unhelpful. But you think, well, I just better get back into my corner. And actually, I'm going to just stay in my safe space and speak to the other people I know who also understand process and understand how the world should be. And I'm not saying that happens all of the time, but I can see that that is a risk because of the cultures that we're trying to bring together in terms of higher education and all its magic and a PMO approach that wants to make things happen rightly in a structured way. So a few top tips. They're just my approaches. I'm sure you'll hear more and wiser and deeper as the morning goes on. You do need to know your discipline. You need to have confidence that you are a professional in this space and you understand it. But that, I would suggest, needs to be balanced with a really deep understanding of your context and your stakeholders so that you can land them well. And soft skills, I don't like the phrase soft skills. I spent years as a director of careers and employability trying to kill that term because soft skills implies somehow that they are lesser or more optional, whereas personally I think they're the deal breaker. But I do think, therefore, that being able to wrap those skills around your technical professional knowledge is really important to navigate this. Keep hold of the fact that process is not an outcome. I'm sure Moira is going to use hide the wires when she speaks to you, because we talk about that a lot. And I cannot stress this strongly enough, operating for your institution consistently and in partnership is so important, because if we as PMO communities mirror silos or create new ones, all we're going to do is amplify the problems that we're trying to solve. And so I think it's really important. And if I had to summarise that in pictures, I would use these two. I do believe that this is an area of work which is critical to institutional success, particularly now in the times in which we are. I do think the diagram on the left is often how we can move into if we don't properly connect with everything that is out there. And I offer you one graphic, by no means a definitive one, in terms of soft skills, because I think it is these combined with the technical knowledge which absolutely can make the difference. And so my final quote, which I think really echoes the opening that we heard, is that These things are hard to do. I think your institutional communities are really important, that you know and you seek out the people that are trying to do this work so that you work together, you have consistency, you have difference where it's appropriate, but you do it as a coherent community. And what I'm absolutely delighted is that House of PMO working with us are doing things to foster a national community, because nobody does big things by themselves. And I think there's a really exciting opportunity here to build a really powerful professional community that can really make a difference to the magic in the higher education sector. So that is everything that I wanted to say. Thank you very much for inviting me to say a few words, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.